In this lesson, we'll build the towers for the back side of our building. Alright, so in the previous lesson we finished building up some of these faces on the front side of our building, and we'd begun working on sort of this back side here. Now, the issue I ran into sort of at the end of the last lesson, where some of these elements got shifted, actually happened when I was shift selecting several of these items to hide them. I went back through my undo process and found that a couple of these towers right here actually got shifted up some. So I've gone ahead and fixed that, and we'll go ahead and begin transferring these towers to the back side. Since they do raise up a little bit above the window here and these edges, we'll actually see a little bit of those. So let's go ahead and start with this first triangle shaped protrusion right here, and we'll just go ahead and zoom in on that. And the first thing we're going to need to do is go ahead and hide a few of these elements. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this face right here and Control 3, and then click on this face and Control 3. And what we're going to go after is this object right here. And it's actually needs to be moved up just a little bit anyways in this stacking order, because it's underneath this lighter gray face here. We'll just Control open, or actually Control close bracket a few times until we get that object, there we go, in front of this gray panel right here. So we've got that where it needs to be. And I tell you what, let's go ahead and zoom in here, because we're going to make a copy of this one and move it back perpendicular so that we can actually line it up with this corner right here. So let's go ahead and begin moving this back by holding Alt 5 to make that copy. And again, we're not going to really go for mathematical precision here at this point. I'm just going to make sure it lines up nice and even with this corner right here. So I'll hold down 5 and move that out and away a little bit, and we'll go ahead and just swing that into position here. I think right about there looks pretty good. So we've created sort of this inside edge here. Now, if we wanted to, we could go ahead and grab our selection tool and double click on this object to go inside isolation mode. And let's go ahead and get rid of these lines. And we'll go ahead and change the color of this, make it a little bit darker here as well. Let's go ahead and give that a nice dark gray color. And we're working in grayscale right now just because I want to be concerned with the forms and the actual construction of the building before we add color. We'll get into a couple lessons on color here in just a little bit, but let's go ahead and leave that where it is. And if we go ahead and at this point we could bring back our hidden objects using Control Alt 3. And it looks like we've got a little stacking order issue here. So I tell you what, let's go ahead and move this back one. There we go. We've got our face where it needs to be. Now, we probably need to move this back one as well. But let's go ahead and focus on getting these two faces duplicated and in position over here. Actually, we're just going to need this face right here. So actually, we're going to make another copy of this using our perspective selection tool. And I'm going to go ahead and hold Alt 5 for this one as well, so we can move that back perpendicular to its original position. So we'll just kind of get that pretty close here. And zoom in. Let's go ahead and hold 5 and tweak that just a little bit. And that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and work on this next column here. And we're going to see, it looks like all 3 of these visible faces right here. But again, I'm going to be concerned with the innermost face of this object. So let's go ahead and hide some of these with Control 3. And we're going after this face right here. So that actually needs to be moved up just a little bit in the stacking order as well, just to get it in front of this gray face right here. Actually, let's go ahead and just move that gray face back. Moving it back with Control open bracket until we get it behind this face. And real subtle change there, but we actually got it where it needs to go. Alright, so what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and make a copy of this face right here, this lighter gray face, and move it back again perpendicular. So holding Alt 5. We'll just move that back right about there until we can get a good position for that. Let's go ahead and move that all the way to the back. Alright, so what we need to do now is we're going to have to hide a few of these because we need to line this up with this edge of the building that we can't see. So, I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and come through and just Control 3 on a few of these faces to get them out of our way. Any of them that may be sort of blocking our view here. And let's go ahead and hide this as well. Alright, so we're ready to go ahead and line this up. Let's go ahead and select this object we just sent to the back as well, or select it again. And let's go ahead and hold down 5, and we'll just begin bringing that forward some. We've got it too far back as of right now. And I'm just going to work at lining it up roughly with the base of that dark gray face that we have there. And it looks like we need to come a little further forward with it. Let's go back and forward. Alright, so I think that's in a pretty good position. we'll just zoom back out here. And let's go ahead and hit Control-Alt-3 to bring back all of our faces. And you can see the edge of that just sticking up ever so slightly there. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these window lines here by double-clicking on that, mask, group, and going into isolation mode and just hitting my backspace key. And then we'll go ahead and change the color of that again, making it a little bit darker. Let's go ahead and use this gray right here. I believe that's the same one we chose for this little piece right here. All right. Now the two faces we're going to need for this next step are this face right here and this face. And again, for these faces, it's just a matter of coming in and making a copy of these objects and moving them backwards in space in a perpendicular fashion. So grabbing my perspective selection tool again, let's select this face right here and hold Alt-5 and just drag a copy down here. And we can zoom in and tighten that up again by holding 5 to advance it just a little bit. And that looks like it lines up pretty well. So let's come over here and grab this second face here. And again, move this back in a perpendicular fashion. Now, before we do that, the thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to switch this planes. Because if we make a copy of this in a perpendicular fashion, we're actually going to advance it in relation to the right perspective plane. So you can see here, if I Alt-5 this one, we're moving it this direction. So let's go ahead and release this from its perspective plane. And select the left plane and assign it over to that one. Make that its active plane. And at this point, we'll hold Alt-5 and move that back into position where it needs to go here. So we can zoom in, and it looks like we need to adjust that just a little bit. Holding 5. Alright, so that looks like it's in a pretty good position as well here. So let's go ahead and zoom back out, and let's handle this last protrusion here, this last column. So again, we're going to hide some of these faces. And we're going to go for this face right here. Now remember, we're going to actually need to hide some of these too so we can line that up. And it looks like we've got a stacking order problem. Let's go ahead and send this piece to the very back. And we'll come in and let's just hide quite a few of these elements here. Coming through, clicking and Alt-3. Alright, so we're ready to go ahead and make a copy of this object here and move it back in a perpendicular fashion. So we'll hold Alt-5 and send that backwards. I'm going to go ahead and send that object to the very, very back. And we're ready to go ahead and begin lining this up. So I'm going to go ahead and hold down my 5 key and bring this forward until we line that up right there with the corner of that plane. That looks pretty good to me, so we'll zoom out, see how the top end looks, and I think we're good to go there. So let's bring back our objects with Control-Alt-3. And we're ready to bring over these last two faces. So just repeat this process again. Now this one does look like it's on the appropriate plane, so we'll make a copy and move it back perpendicular, snapping it into position there. And this one, again, is going to need to be switched over to the left perspective plane. So we'll release that and then attach it to the active plane after we select this left plane. And again, making a copy and moving it back. So now at this point we can zoom in, and it looks like we need to tighten these up just a little bit. So we'll select this one and bring it forward some. And we'll select this one next and bring it forward some as well here. And if we really want to, we can come in and again delete these windows out of here. Just like so. Let's go ahead and change that color again. And I know we have the same color selected for both this face here and this face, but we'll actually address that when we begin working with color on our building. So at this point, we've pretty much built the main structure of the building. Now, if we look over at our orthographic drawings, there's a few other elements that we need to add to adorn this building. We've got sort of a peak here at the very top of our building. Maybe this is some kind of an executive suite, and you can see here that that doesn't actually span the entire width of the building. So we've still got that left to build. And then we've got these circular structures on either side of the building that are actually going to be elevations and as well. So I tell you what, in the next lesson we'll pick up where we're leaving off here, and we'll begin building some of these additional elements for our skyscraper.